Welcome, Daniel. Long time no
What's going
talk.
on, man? Oh, man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited about being authentic as fuck. This is what I want. This is what the world needs. I do a coaching program every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's called Wealth on the Beach Club. And I was just telling them this morning, I said, my whole career, like good and bad, I've always been a truth teller. Like I would just rather tell you the truth. And I know that it's hurt me. I know that I've made less money in my life because I tell the truth. I would rather tell you the hard truth. I would rather tell you what's real than blow smoke up your ass. And then 10 years from now, you tell me, oh man, you didn't tell me I had to do this, or you didn't tell me this was going to happen or whatever. And so first of all, I love your content. You're a badass. And
Thank you.
just, I really respect you for that truth telling and wanting to be like transparent and do the right thing for the people that you're serving.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's start with that. So did you always know that just being authentic, being yourself, and not like hiding kind of your truth, right? And like speaking your truth. That is actually, from what I've seen, a lot of successful entrepreneurs I know are like that. And I didn't know that when I started out. I thought in the beginning, I always thought as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you have to you have to not show your hand, right? You have to always. So did you have experience with that? Were you always like that? Or is that something that you kind of learned as you got older?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was always like that. And probably because I started in business at 21. And so, of course, at 21, the biggest mistake we all make, and again, whether you're 21 or 51, the mistake that people make is they're always afraid about what people think about them. They're always so worried about the perception that somebody's going to have. So, of course, you're always hiding. You're always trying to not say everything. You're trying to not let anybody see any pimples, because you're always trying to protect this perfect little image. And by the way, to be completely authentic and truthful and transparent, I mean, the business that I'm in, this is, I'm in the selling the dream business. I mean, I recruit people and I train people and I develop people. And so I think that there is, there always, I think, is going to be a piece of what we do that is not showing all. I don't go try to recruit somebody and say, hey, look, man, first day, it's going to be the hardest thing you're ever going to do. You probably shouldn't join because you're probably going to fail. So, you better not get started ever because, statistically speaking, you're probably going to fail and you'll never make it. And so just forget it. Of course, you're never going to say that. Otherwise, you'd never recruit anybody. So I would rather say, look, man, I mean, it's going to be hard, but at least we know that it's possible. Some people have made it. Again, there's a lot of people that didn't make it, but some people do make it. So let's just be honest here, right? What's going to be the determining factor, though, is are you willing to have a work ethic? Are you willing to get out of your comfort zone? Are you willing to learn things that you don't know right now? So when I was talking about earlier is that I really kind of had a desire, especially once people were in and they got licensed and they were a little bit seasoned, I was very tough with my people. I was very, I said it like it was. I full transparency about everything to like, look, guys, if you don't do certain things, you ain't never going to make it. And so I just think everybody is just, there's so much bullshit out there, man. Yeah. And everybody is, not telling the truth about what it takes to become successful. It's fucking hard.
Yeah. And I think it's like, that's a good point because there's a difference between manipulation and inspiration. And sometimes to inspire people, we do have to, kind of leave some information out, or we need, like even me, right? When I'm actually writing something, it's not like it's going from my brain to boom and then posting. Like I am editing it and I'm trying to find the most impactful way to say this. So to a certain degree, like I don't think authentic means just say what's on your mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that for me, at least, I don't know about I don't know how you see it, but for me, the difference is in the intention. Like, is my intention to manipulate this person to just like sell to them, or is my intention to actually inspire this person and help them? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believe inspiration. I mean, I always told my agents, like, look, guys, we are in the inspiration business. We have to inspire because, think about it. A kid like me, I had nothing. I never sold anything in my life. I never was good at school. I was a slow reader. I had low self-esteem. I was scared about, from a lot of, I always say that I was scared of tall, educated white guys, because I'm a vertically challenged, Mexican kid with not a lot of education, man. So it's like, I was scared of doing a lot of things, but in the end, the reason why I kept going was because people were selling me the dream and they were inspiring me and they were saying like, look, man, if you work hard and you do these things, you can make it. Now, granted, I'm like 1% of 1%, that's going to make it. But the truth is I never would have made it if somebody wouldn't have inspired me. So yes, we have to inspire, but we also have to be okay with the fact that, you send out an email, you're going to get a 0.01 response rate or whatever it is, whatever the email response rate. I mean, life is a numbers game, man. And you got, especially in business and sales, and everything is a numbers game. Yeah. You can't be afraid to play those numbers.
That's true. Yeah. Like I think a lot of people make that mistake of like being too passionate, and then they let their emotions get in the way of like their decision making. And like, you have to understand that it is a numbers game at the end of the day. And so how did you go from at 21 starting your business, and then like can you tell us a quick preview of your story of like how did you first build that business, save enough money, and then what's the motivation behind you wanting to talk about financial freedom?
So a buddy of mine, I mean, we were 21 years old. I'd just been at home. I'd hurt my knee. I was going to college for a little while, community college, playing baseball. And I hurt my knee real bad. And I was done with baseball, came back home, felt like a total freaking loser, man. My life was not very good. I was not happy at all. I lost my passion for playing baseball, and I was hanging out with wrong people, smoking shit I shouldn't have been smoking, drinking too much, hanging out with the wrong group of people. And then all of a sudden, a buddy of mine, which was kind of an unlikely character because he was, a guy that he was probably the biggest partier that I knew. I mean, he was worse than me. But he got recruited into, where I'm still at after all these years. And he was recruited, but this guy wouldn't shut up, man, about doing it. He's like, Daniel, you got to do this, man. You could be great, and blah, blah. And I'm like, come on, bro. It's probably a scam. It's probably, whatever, some sort of scheme or whatever. And it's all bullshit. They're just trying to motivate you, whatever. And, but he wouldn't shut up, man. And he was one of my buddies, growing up. And so finally, after like 4 months, I show up to this meeting, and this guy's, it sounds like the infomercial guy at like 4 o'clock in the morning, he's like, yeah, you could make $100,000. And I'm like making $7 an hour at the time, right? Like the most I ever made in my life was $14,000. And he's like, you could make $100,000 and you could travel the world and have freedom for your life and earn passive income and all this shit. And I was like, come on, that's bullshit, and that was in the back of my mind, but kind of there was something inside of my stomach that night when I was listening to this guy. I'm like, well, he's got a Ferrari outside, and he looks kind of like, he was a tall white guy, that had a little bit of education, and so I looked at him and I said, well, if he puts on his pants like I put on my pants, if I just steal his information, this is what I'm thinking at 21. I'm like, if I steal his information and I figure out what he did to become successful, I could just copy that shit, and then I could go and do what he did and be, have success. And so that was my rationale. I got started and I went for it, and I never looked back. In a couple of years, I was making $100,000. I mean, think about it. I quit college. I didn't have a lot of college education. I felt like I was getting left behind because all my friends were, because the first 2 years when you're in business, man, first couple of years, everything goes to shit, and you feel like you're not doing good. And all my friends were, going to college, and they all looked like they were going to have careers and do well. But I don't know, man. There was something in me. I just wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want anybody to have their thumb on me. I just wanted to do something big,
For the listeners, can you explain like what this company does and what you do now?
So I got an insurance license. So we do life insurance, we do annuities, we do investments, college funds, retirement accounts. We actually back then we did a lot of auto insurance as well. And but I was but a main piece of what I was trying to do was to recruit and train. So like I would recruit somebody, and then I would bring them in under me, and then I would get them licensed with the state. Yeah. So you have to have a license. So it wasn't just some, whatever out of my garage or anything. We had physical locations and offices, and
you also sell like insurance too.
And we sell life insurance to our clients.
So you did both. You sold and you do recruiting.
Correct. Okay. I did everything. Yep. So because Well, what I was going to say is that there's two pieces of the business, right? I mean, you always have your clients because that's how you make money. When I recruited, I didn't make any money. You don't make any money to recruit. You just make money if that guy ends up becoming successful.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
So were you did you start making money right away? Like, so what is the timeline there? Like how?
Well, the first year I made 15 grand. Literally, I just matched what I was making in my $7 an hour job. But I was part-time. So I figured I was excited because I just doubled my income, so having this little part-time job that I was doing. But I worked hard. I mean, I'm not, I showed up to every event. I showed up to every meeting. I went to every training. Of course, I got all my licenses right away. I did that very quickly. So I was educated. I knew what I was talking about. I mean, I was still scared, because I was only 21. I was talking to 40-year-old people, and they're like, what is this kid going to teach me? But I started learning from a lot of millionaires, and I started gathering information from them. So I was able to take that information, give it to my clients. So it was fun.
So first year you make 15 grand and you decide. So like, Patrick Bet-David, right? Like he has PHP where he does insurance, and like some people like think that that's like network marketing. I guess it's similar in the way that you recruit people and things like that. And I did something like that in high school for this company called Cutco, and they sell knives. Yeah.
Of course.
I didn't have the sales drive, right? Like I literally sold one knife set to my aunt, and that was it. And I think like in your business too, a lot of people I think give up, right? So what's the thing that made you stick with? Because like in a lot of this business, there are people who are motivated and keeps going, have the patience that do succeed. And then there's a lot of people that just try for a month and like, this isn't working, and give up, right? So what do you think is the difference there?
The difference is coachability, man. Honestly, I know that it's simplistic to say, but I've been doing this for 28 years, man. So I know people. I know people really, really well, like on a different level than most people know people. Because again, I've showed up to trainings. I've been training these people for 28 years, and so I'll meet somebody. And they say, I want to change my life. I want to retire my parents. I want to drive a nice car. I want to get a life of freedom and choices. And I go, great, I could help you do that. And then I go, okay, the first thing we got to do is we got to get you licensed as quickly as possible by the state. You got to take some tests. You got to take some classes, whatever. And then I hear back from them a month later, and I say, hey, did you get your classes done? Did you do this? Well, no, not really. I've been so busy, and my dog died, and and my dog also ate my homework before I died. And then next thing you know, it's like, then I had this situation. I stubbed my toe real bad, had to go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And it's like every little thing. Like I recruited them, and then every possible bad thing happened to them in the next 30 days. It was unbelievable. So those are the people, like, for example, the difference though, is that so I come in the business, 21 years old. I talked to this guy. I said, okay, I'll do whatever you tell me to do as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral. I will do it. I don't care. Just tell me what to do. I'm totally coachable because I came from sports too. So this probably helped. Coach told you what to do. You did it. And I did it. And what was crazy is the guy said, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to go get licensed. I got licensed. He says, you need to go on appointments. Or how do I get an appointment? He says, well, you got to call somebody you know and say, hey, I'm in training. I need your help. Just get me in front of a bunch of people as you can. I wrote like 20 sales in my first couple of months with my trainer. And then we recruited probably, 5, 10 people out of those, people that we went to go see. And all I did to get the appointment is I said, hey, I'm in training. I need your help. Will you, whatever. And I was just coachable. I just did. That was the difference, man. People are lazy. People don't do what they say they're going to do. That is the number one. By the way, you want to be successful at anything in your life, do what you say you're going to do. And we all make mistakes, by the way, which I do. And I made a mistake to you, and I apologize to you about the podcast and all, timing, all the kind. Dude, I'm telling you, I'm the first one to apologize and say I'm sorry if I messed up. But man, I'm telling you, it's like it's so difficult.
It is simple.
It's so simple, right? But it's so difficult for people to keep their word, man. I mean, I'm telling you,
simple,
95%
difficult. Yeah.
Well, it's difficult, yeah, but it's not. But ultimately, it is kind of simple. I mean, the truth is, I can give you a million excuses, but the truth is that when it doesn't go in the calendar, for me, when it doesn't go in the calendar, it's like it's not even there.
Yeah.
So,
and I like what.
Yeah.
Yeah, finish your thought. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, so when shit happens to me, which again, I'm human, shit happens to me. When that stuff happens to me, I'm the first one to say, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I'll make it better. I'll fix it and rock and roll. And you keep moving forward. But I'll tell you what, man, if I was working for you, if I was in your business and you told me to do something, I would do it. And you could bet your life on that I would do it.
Yeah. So few percentage of people actually do that, right? They are like, being coachable is a tough skill. Like I'll say this, like when I think the reason why I failed at Kako, and I actually failed a lot all the way till I was like 30. And a lot of that reason is because I wasn't coachable. I had a huge ego. I thought I'm like, this is not going to work. Like, I say something's not going to work even before trying it, right? And sometimes I feel like this is why like a lot of smart people fail, is because they're not coachable. They think they know everything, like me, i.e. And then when I started my business at 30, like that's when I got stomped by, like I realized that the market doesn't care, clients don't care, right? Like that's when I actually started learning some humility, and I actually had to go back to being a beginner and learning and being coachable and actually, doing those simple things that people were telling me to do, right? So I love that you covered that. And I also love like what you said about sports, because other than just being coachable, I feel like I've been talking to a lot of people on this podcast, like, and a lot of them have played sports in school. And I think playing sports in school kind of gives you that, like, that if you work hard, you might not see the result day to day, but eventually you see, and kind of like what you did is a lot like that. I mean, first year you made $15,000, and yet you stuck through it. So what's the trajectory there? What happened after that? Like first year, 15K.
So after about 3 years, I was making $100,000. So I went from 15 to like 50 to 100,000, and then 100,000 and went to 250, I think, and then 350, and then $500,000. It was something like that. So
it was a steady growth. It wasn't like get rich quick.
Yeah. No, it was just, come on, man. I was just growing up. I was a little kid, I was trying to figure my life out. I was trying to figure myself out. I was trying to figure out how to be a leader, because I was leading all these people. I was recruiting these people, and, they were, 30 years old, 40 years old people. And I'm like trying to tell them like, hey man, one of my best guys, this is a thing that I always talk about. Like one of my best guys, he was making like 100,000. I was only making 50, and I'm selling him the dream, like of what we're going to go change the world, man. Now this guy hasn't had to work in I mean, I would say a good 10 years he hasn't had to work. He's got a great life. He's built a nice business of passive income. And I'm proud. I'm proud of the fact that we have 56 locations now. We have about 1,500 licensed agents. So we recruit a lot of people. A lot of them don't do what they say they're going to do. It's still a numbers game. Nothing changes. We recruit hundreds and hundreds of people every month. We probably only license maybe 20% of those people because they don't even they can't even finish the dang like, and it's like 30 hours online. It's not even a hard thing. It's not like going to college or anything. So it's so easy to do, but people just don't follow through.
Yeah. So question, how did you feel like talking to somebody who's like making more money than you, older than you, yet you have to like motivate this person and kind of, you have to kind of lead them, right? So how do you lead from that place? How, like, can you give for people who are like younger,
Yeah. I mean, I think like I tell because a lot of young people, they come to me and they ask me questions about like, how did you do it at such a young age? And I always tell them like, look, my Tiger Woods, they didn't care. They paid Tiger Woods $100 million at like 18 years old. They didn't care how old he was, right? Nobody gives a shit your age. They only care about your competence level. So if they believe that you know what you're talking about, they're going to follow you. And most important, not even just what you're talking about, but what kind of results are you getting? So even though I was only making 50,000, that guy was making 100 grand, he knew, like he just knew by my confidence, by my skill level, by kind of the trajectory that was happening, like I was starting to really make some good money and he was seeing that. Well, he started going, well, wait a minute, man, if I don't follow this guy, I might miss out. It was almost like he's going to like almost FOMO, and because he's thinking, shit, this guy's going to do something. I believe. So a lot of it is selling the dream. I was selling the dream. I was selling a vision of where we're going to go, what we're going to do. I would have a meeting and then I would get everybody around and all right, where you at? What are you doing? Where are you at this month? What's your goal this month? And I would get all my guys together and then we would have that conversation. I'd say, okay, well, if we take that number and we add up all those numbers, this is how much production we're going to do this month. So as a team, and everybody wants to be a part of a winning team, as a team, we are going to dominate California. We're going to dominate eventually the nation in this company. And we're going to create all kinds of amazing leaders here. We're going to create a lot of financially independent people. We're going to create a lot of people that are going to have some great things happen to them.
I also that reminds me of like when you say you talk to your team and you kind of go over their numbers individually. I feel like that's something a lot of people don't realize in sales is yes, there's like the sales tactics and the emotional part of it, but there's that follow-up, just checking in and just being organized and doing the little boring things. That's where I feel like most people mess up. So is that something that you learned like through this process? Like how did you, like what are some of the biggest lessons you learned through building your business?
Well, I mean, number one, the boring things make you rich. Okay. It's really, that's what it is. I mean, because nobody ever remembers the fact that I'm up at midnight after I closed a sale, after I got a recruit, and I'm up at midnight sitting on my computer, typing up a script of exactly what I said on that appointment so that I can duplicate my process. So everything that I was doing was a means to an end. So I was getting results. Yes, of course, I want to make money. Of course, but I was getting results because number one, I wanted to have an actual, story to tell. I wanted to be able to say, okay, this is what I did. This is what I said. This is how I said it. This is who I said it with. This is, in whatever order. And this is the result that I got. So I was able to go back now and I was able to, number one, create scripts and manuals and tapes. A long time ago, there were cassette tapes. I burned like hundreds and hundreds of cassette tapes. Now, who does that, man? I was like 21, 22, 23 years old, and I'm doing all this because I'm trying to create systems. I'm trying to create duplicatable ways that I can teach all my people. I would videotape them on Saturday morning doing their presentation, so that way we can perfect their performance when they were out in the field. So it's just like a great football team. They practice all week and they watch film. Well, we would practice all week and watch film. And then we would go, all right, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this, or you're saying this wrong. We need to fix this. This doesn't sound right. You need to do this. I mean, I still do it. I made everybody this morning, because I'm teaching a lot about social media and trying to make sure that people get that part of their business right. And I'm like, send me screenshots of your profile on Instagram, because I want to look at it. And some of them, it's like their face is like this close to the screen, and they, it's like, and then their name, it says like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, Fantasyland or something. It's like, how is anybody going to take you seriously? Number one, how is anybody going to know who you are and be able to buy from you or connect with you if they don't even know your name? Yeah. If your name's not even. So anyways, there's just so many things late at night that I did, early in the morning that I did. They were boring, man. And nobody wants to do that shit. But we did it over and over again.
Yeah. So I can see how you grew on social media and things like that, because that's like the number one sign for me. When I meet somebody who has the discipline to do the boring things, I know this person's going to make it no matter what. Like, even if they're not there yet, I know they'll figure it out and eventually they'll make it. So that's a really good point. I want to talk about selling a little bit. So a lot of people in the creative world, in our world, they have this fear of like, even like, cold outreach. Like, they have this fear of like even DMing people, right? Like, it's like, oh, I'm bothering them, or like, do you understand what I mean? Like, because like I get message after message from people that are like, hey, do you need somebody? Do you need a closer? Do you need an appointment setter? And all of that from the salespeople. But I never get messages from creative people because they feel like they're bothering me or something like that. So first of all, do you see people like that when you recruit people, like that are afraid to do cold calls or afraid to like knock on doors and
Absolutely, man. I mean,
and how do you
we're all afraid, son. We're all afraid, man. We're all scared. Every one of us. We look tough. We look confident. But inside, we're all fucking scared, man. Let's be honest, right? I'm scared. I just did an interview with the pretty a producer of a movie, and it's a pretty big movie, and I just interviewed him right now, and I was nervous getting on the call. Like, am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to mess up? Am I going to, whatever I got? And then I come to find out, he's the one that was kind of disorganized a little bit and didn't have things all set up. Like, so I don't know. I think for me, man, this is the way that all of the creatives need to think about the process of selling. Is you need to believe in your product more than anybody in the world. Like, I just look, I know that when I sit down with a client, now I may have to, I'll sit down with a client, or I'm setting up an appointment. Like, for example, and I go, hey, Mr. Client, they're like, oh, we're so busy. I'm like, don't worry about it, man. It's going to take like 20 minutes, man. It's really simple. We'll just have a conversation, whatever. Now, in truth, I know it ain't going to take 20 minutes. Okay. In truth, I know it's not. This is the difference between people that get shit done and people that don't get shit done. Now, some people, they could say, well, you manipulated that client to get them in you told us something that's not true, whatever. No. I believe in my product so much that I know that without me, their life is not going to be as good. I am going to make their life better. And I know this, just not to mention, I've $500 million under management, and I think we've probably put under, $10 billion under life insurance management. I mean, massive numbers. So I know, and we paid out hundreds of millions of death claims, by the way. And and just with that $500 million in assets under management, that number represents the fact that a lot of people are going to retire. A lot of people are going to send their kids to college. A lot of people are going to be able to do a lot of things in their life because we, at some point, sat down with those clients and said, look, we need to manage your money. We need to invest some money. We need to put the money, because people don't do that by themselves. Like, you don't wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, you know what, honey, let's get some life insurance today. You know, it's like, you know, let's get some fun life. Let's talk about life insurance. Let's talk about dying, honey. Right? Nobody does that. Nobody, you know. So as a salesperson, it's my job some way, somehow, to get in that door and tell my story. And if I can get in that door and tell my story, I know that they're going to be protected and they're going to have a better financial future, all because I was there. And I am so confident about that, that I never feel, and at least I, you know, try to never feel, that I'm bothering somebody or I'm trying to do something bad to get in their door, or like what do you mean, man? If I'm not like there.
You have a lot of conviction in your product, which
That's it.
Which is so important, because if I'm not sold on it, there's no way I'm going to sell somebody else. Wait, how was it like? Because I can see from like with over 20 years of experience, you've seen it with your own eyes, like how it benefits people and things like that. But when you first started, like how did you have the confidence to like sell when you first started? Because obviously at that point, you haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen like the results of this yet. So this is what this is what happened to me, is that now again, I get what you're saying. A lot of people, this is why, and I always tell my agents, like, you're really not an agent until you paid your first death claim. You know, because once you pay your first death claim, that's when you're really going to be convicted. You know, that's when everything becomes real. Because right now, I sit down with somebody, I write up a life insurance policy. It doesn't really mean anything, because it's like I just sold them a policy, like it's an auto insurance policy for all they care. You know, it's just they're just paying every month, right? And so sometimes we as salespeople, we feel bad. We're like, man, I feel bad that I'm making them pay for something that they may never even use. It could be a total waste of money for the client. But you can't think about it like that. You got to think, all right, what if, right? What if you do crash? What if you do, you know, get cancer or something like that? But now, getting back to the question, you know, what really happened to me was the fact that a really good friend of mine, his sister, I tried to set up an appointment with her and her with the sister and the brother-in-law of my really, really good friend when I was starting. And I tried to set up an appointment with them, man. They were like 30 years old. And so they were like older to my buddy. But I tried to, so I called them up and said, hey, you know, just, you know, I'm in training right now. Just help me out and, you know, just whatever. And I tried with this guy for 6 months to a year. I tried with this guy to get an appointment with him. And he always told me, no, I'm so young, man. What do I need? Life insurance? I don't need that. I'm good. Don't worry about it, whatever. And then, so they, all of a sudden, one day he calls me up out of the blue and he's like, hey, Daniel, I was wondering if, you know, you could write me up for that life insurance. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I've been trying to track you down for a year, man. You told me no every time. And he said, well, I just found out I have cancer. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but you know, there's nothing you can do at that point. You can't get life insurance when you already know you have cancer. So of course there's nothing we can do. They just had a brand new baby. 6 months later, the guy dies. Okay. And he leaves his wife and his brand new baby with zero money, $0. Matter of fact, he had a little policy at his work that he forgot to change the beneficiary and it went to the parent. And then, you know, his mom or whatever, and his mom didn't like the wife. I guess they were not in good terms or something. So his wife got nothing. She had to move back up north to live with her parents and with her child and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. For me, man, when that happened, and that happened a year into me being in the business, when that happened, I mean, it changed my life because there was another level of conviction. Like, all right, that ain't never going to happen. Also helped me become a better salesperson too. Yeah, because you saw what failure looks like.
That's it. That's what I failed. Yeah, I failed them.
Yeah. And now you're never gonna let like somebody else have that again. Wow, that's powerful. And like just to translate it to like freelancing and designers, I think I had the similar experience where in the beginning I was making websites for like these small mom and pop, like small like other like solopreneurs who kept going out of business. It wasn't until like I built the website that I saw a company, their revenue go up by millions after launching this new website. Is when I realized, oh my gosh, like I was so convicted that you need me. Do you understand what I mean? And I think
absolutely.
that every salesperson has to make that connection. Like, how is this really, really benefiting that person? Because like if you knew that, you wouldn't let them just leave. Do you understand what I mean? Like, so let's talk about recruiting a little bit. So, because I think it's when you recruit people, I think it's very similar to how like life coaches, business coaches, recruit people for coaching, right? Because it's similar. Like you're trying to help them be financially independent and things like that, and live a better life. So, how do you recruit people? Do you like what's your process like? What are some common obstacles you face, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah. So for me, back when I was really recruiting, I mean, I don't recruit as many people anymore. I kind of just recruit people that come to me now. So they'll reach out on DM and they'll say, "Hey, I want to work with you." And yeah, I don't ever reach out to recruit anybody.
And that's from social media,
and that's from social media. Yeah. I mean, people come to me and they're like, "Hey, I watched you on some podcast and." Or I read your book or whatever, and they say, "Hey, I want to come to work with you." And those are the people I love working with. Those people because number one, I know that they're go-getters because they actually did reach out to me and they asked for help.
They're ripe.
They're ripe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that. Those are the best people for me. So if that's somebody out there, just DM me and we'll talk. Yeah. But no, I look in the early days, it would just be face to face. I mean, we didn't have social media and we didn't have any of this stuff. So I would literally go to the mall and I would talk to managers and I would say, "Hey, have you ever considered a career change if the money was right? Or have you ever thought about doing anything different? Or have you ever, thought about getting an insurance license or an investment license or anything like that?" And it was a lot different back then. I mean, today, the recruiting numbers have gone through the roof, man. I mean, I've never seen more people being recruited than they are right now, because because social media is allowing us to connect with so many people so much faster. Like if I would go to the mall or a whole day, I might only get 3, 4, 5 prospecting numbers a day. Now you could prospect 60 people a day if you want to. Now again, I know it feels like it's overwhelming or it's like, oh my God, you're going to, people are going to be saturated with you or whatever. And I just don't believe that. I believe that saturation never happens if you have good content. If you have if you have a good message, there's, people can't get enough of a good message. I mean, look at Tony Robbins. I mean, he's been around for 40 years, and people still love to hear his stuff, even though we all already know what he's going to say. We already know every word he's going to say. We still love listening to him. And so if the content's good, people will keep coming back.
I think the energy is also like Tony Robbins has that energy. And I think you also have that energy. And a lot of people underestimate that. Like I underestimate it because like when I'm feeling a little bit low and I'm making content versus when I'm on a high, like people can tell the difference. So how did you get started? Like, did you see that, okay, social media, because not everybody who sells insurance invests in social media. So what was the thing that made you go like, okay, I need to do this. I need to build a following. How long did it take you? Like, what was that process like? And how did you get started? Because a lot of people are in the beginning stages right now, the listeners.
Right, for sure. No, I mean, I kind of feel like I feel like I've always been like one step ahead.
Okay.
And I don't know how I got this or why I got this. I just can see things like another step ahead of like what's going to happen next. And so like I was one of the first people ever in the entire corporation, because I do work with a corporation, a New York Stock Exchange company. And they have 150,000 licensed agents inside of this organization. But I think I was the first to ever have an iPad. I was one of the first to have a cell phone. I was one of the first to ever have a website. I was one of the first to ever put my whole system in a book and like a manual. I was probably one of the first to ever, duplicate all my systems on tape, all these things, like especially, as a newer business, with the company. And I saw social media as it's going to be the next thing. We're going to use social media for a long, long time. I mean, I think it's actually here to stay no matter what. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to go move in the mountains with no internet connection. That's fine. There's going to be people like that. And then, but for the vast majority, 90% of the world, social media is going to be a thing, because it is entertainment and it is content and it is a way to learn things. It is a way to feed the time, to kind of pass the time away. And this is why people, I believe, will continue to use social media forever. So in probably, I don't know, 2015 or something like that, maybe even before that, I started getting on social media. I actually did the first social media training on TV for the corporation for their streaming, program that they put on every week. And so I taught the entire company how to do social media. And so, yeah, I was all in it, man. I was all on board because I believed that this was going to be relevant, especially to us that want to recruit and train and develop other people. And just not to mention just staying relevant. Think about every day I get to teach things, and I got 1,500 agents. I get to teach one thing. I get to go on camera one time for a minute and 30 seconds, teach something, and then all my agents watch it, or at least the ones that want to watch me, right? So think about from a duplication standpoint, it's beautiful. I mean, it's like everything I've ever
That's kind of how I started too. Like I wanted to make videos that all my clients can, because I kept explaining the same shit over and over and over to everyone. So I just made the video of it. So that like just whoever, like I don't have to keep explaining the same thing. So right now when you recruit new people and they're, let's say, kind of starting from the beginning and they don't have social media presence, like what do you tell them to do? Like how do they know? Because a lot of people ask me like what do I post? Like content ideas or, like things like that. So how do you get them started? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I think number one, they got to have a belief in it. And they got to know that they got to have a nice profile. They got to have a nice feed, try to, boost their followers somehow, because I mean, this is unfortunately, we live in a society where people see, they'll see one guy with 1 million followers and they're just automatically attracted to that person for like no reason at all.
But they love him because he's got 1 million followers. It's like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? And so I was always, just telling people, like, just make sure that you're giving a lot of value. It's kind of like the Gary V. Right, jab, jab, right hook, right? I mean, I just wanted to give value. I never, like, if you notice on my feed, I rarely talk about like buy from me or, here's my company, here's our stock, here's our, whatever. I rarely do that, only because I think people buy me. I don't think they're buying the company. And so what I see a challenge a lot of people in the beginning is they just post like, hey, join my team and, you got to work with me and we're the best and, we're great and this is why, and you need life insurance and all this kind of stuff. And again, there's, maybe, there's a percentage of posts that you might ask people to join you or buy from you or whatever, but it's got to be few and far between, because I think people get tired of just getting a commercial every day.
So out of all your agents that you work with, that you recruited and you're training, what percentage of them would you say, when you say do social media, blah, 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 what percentage of them are like doing it the way you want them to, like, and then what percentage of them are like kind of just like, okay, I'll do it, but not really doing it?
Unfortunately, it's probably like 1%.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
okay.
Really, it's nobody. Nobody's doing it. I mean, I swear, I trade on this all the time, and nobody does it. I mean, I'll give you kind of an example of how well this shit works when you do what you're supposed to do. Okay, so in 2020, about October of 2019, I don't know why. I didn't know the pandemic was coming, but I don't know why. But I started really thinking hard about doing some sponsored ads because I'd never spent money on advertising ever in my entire career, all the years, never. But for whatever reason, I'm like, I met somebody and this guy was kind of a marketing guy. And I'm like, and he kind of convinced me and we were talking and I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's try it. Right. And it didn't even cost me a lot of money. Matter of fact, I recruited the guy and we worked together and I started giving him a percentage of the profits and everything. But what happened was we made a video. We made a simple little video in my house. And, he did a good job. We had lighting. It was like there was a little bit of production value there, but it was a nice little video. And he edited it really nice and everything. And then he connected it to like basically Calendly, and then it connected to like a Google Sheet. And so it was a simple landing page. And I'd never done this ever. And I set it all up during COVID, 2020. I had my best year because I went back to work because especially when COVID started hitting, I was like, you know what? I want to prove to my guys because I am a leader and I always lead from the front. I'll never ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do or I haven't done. And so I said, I'm going to go back to work in 2020 and I'm going to freaking kill it, man. And so I started running these ads and I started getting like 30, 40 leads a day. And I recruited like 60 people that year. The most I had ever recruited in 1 year all by myself was 40. Mm-hmm. And I recruited 60 directs and I did 12,000 in production or 112 sales or something like that, all by myself. So that's almost like 10 sales a month, which is actually in our business is amazing. Yeah. Pretty significant. And so I killed it. And then I went around telling everybody to get their social media going. And I told them all to run ads. And I told them all to get a landing page. And I told them all my VPs, all my guys, right? Nobody did it. Nobody did it. And I just go, you guys got to be
Why
kidding
though?
me.
Why do you think is like the thing, the mindset or whatever it is?
Well,
because I see the same thing too. With
yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, the number one reason is because, two reasons. Number one is there's the age. All right. So some people that you're talking to are older, at least for me in my situation, because I've been doing this for 28 years now. Some of the people that I recruited a long time ago, they're getting older. Right. So I got a little bit of an aging population. And then imagine some of these people that I recruited when I was 21 and they were 31. They're 10 years older than me now. So they're definitely getting up there. And so the age, they just don't want to change. And then the other thing is just pure, being scared. They're scared to do something different. And I think their age limits their capacity to learn new things. It's like we've all heard you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And but this is what's helped me become successful is that I've always been that dog that wanted to learn new tricks. I'm always learning new tricks. I mean, the video I posted this morning on my reel was about AI. So what do you think I've been talking about for the last 6 months? I've been talking about AI. I've been using ChatGPT. I've been utilizing. I learned everything I could possibly learn. I'm even teaching my kids. My kids are 18 and 22, and I'm teaching them how to use ChatGPT. That's how I know what the future is going to be.
Have you been like that your whole life? Like that kind of first early adopter, like trying new things? Were you always like that, even when you were young?
Well, I'll be totally honest, no. Matter of fact, my ex-wife, she signed me up for Facebook. So when Facebook first did come out, I didn't like it, right? I did not like it because I liked the old way of doing things, face-to-face, prospecting, all that kind of stuff. I was like, hell no, I ain't getting all that shit. Even the text messaging. I remember this. I remember making fun of one of my agents. I was making fun of her. I'm like, hey, look at her over there. She's like doing all this like texting bullshit, whatever. Right? I swear to God. All right. 6 months later, I'm doing this, right? I'm text messaging everybody and I'm on Facebook and I ended up recruiting a really good guy that ended up, that his uncle ended up opening up one of our offices. And he was one of the first guys that I recruited from Facebook.
So it sounds like the whole coachable thing it translates there because you're flexible, you're once you see something working, you're willing to let go of your stubbornness and do it.
That's it.
Which is a huge, I think. Yeah, I think that's actually huge in business, like that letting go of our ego and our stubbornness and just going with what works. What's your content process? Yeah.
I just want to say one quick thing. Ego will keep you broke. Your ego will keep you broke. And this is like for everybody, man. Just let it go. Let the ego go. Right?
Yeah.
If you make a mistake, say you're sorry. If you don't know something, figure out how to know it. And then if somebody is better than you at something, who gives a shit? I don't care. I always said to myself, I'm like, I'm going to find out from that guy because that guy knows more than me and he's making more money than me. So tell me what the fuck to do. I just want to know what to do. I want to be successful. That's it. There is no, and then I'm not afraid to copy somebody. I'm not afraid to model after somebody else. Now, again, I'm always going to bring my own personality. I don't have to be anybody that I'm not. I don't want to, if that guy talks different than me, I don't have to talk like him. I don't have to, I'm going to still be me, but the systems that are working, why do I got to reinvent it? And especially since I haven't had success. Now, when I get to a certain point of success, of course you're going to alter things and reinvent things and make things better and do things differently. But you got to get to a certain baseline of success before you go around trying to change everything, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want to say that because everyone's already saying it, or I don't want to teach that. But that's all ego. It's like, if your audience needs to hear it, say it. Like, who cares if somebody else said it? They still need to hear it.
Right. Absolutely.
So I want to kind of talk about, so when you make those videos or any kind of content, what's your content process like? Do you just come up with, oh, I want to say this and say it, or do you have some sort of process? Like, how do you pump out content?
So 90% of my content is just me off the cuff, just, me out there saying whatever I'm going to say and just based on my experience. 10% is starting to become AI driven. So what I'll like to do, because the AI is starting to know how I talk. I don't know if people know this, but AI knows my name. It knows that I'm an author, speaker, coach. It knows where I live. I mean, I'll ask it questions. It's like, yeah, you're in Newport Beach, California, so we're going to recommend this to you, or this. Did you know this, or this because of this tax structure? You live in California, blah blah. So it's a learning model. It's learning Daniel Alonzo. So I could ask it to look. I want you to talk like me. I want you to think of some ideas that I would think about, in this certain category, or or in this certain theme. And then so I'll say, give me a minute and a half and let's talk about AI, right? That AI one that I did this morning, that was generated, that script was generated, and then I stuck it in my teleprompter in my phone, and then I was able to just read from it to keep me on point. Because sometimes, we get off point and then, the video becomes 5 minutes and then you got to edit the whole thing. You know what I mean? So it's just better, sometimes it's better. Or you can even write out the script if you want. If somebody feels like, all right, I like to write, I'm not, I had a co-author for a reason on my book. I mean, I'm not, it's all my thoughts and my ideas and my 20 whatever years of experience and all my PowerPoints and manuals and everything. But she made it sound way better than what I could have made it sound, for sure.
There's no shame in that. All my clients have ghostwriters.
Absolutely.
When you have like, okay, I need to talk about this, do you stop and make it? Or do you like kind of upfront be like, okay, here are the things that I'm going to talk about this week, or here are the things that I'm going to talk about this month? Is it more like scheduled like that?
Well, it's actually, believe it or not, it's starting to become like, because I do speak at my office in front of an audience every single week. So I've been taping myself in a lot of live situations. And then I just take that content and I give it to my editor. So I do have a guy that he edits all my stuff. He uploads everything. The only thing that I'm really in charge with is my Instagram. But everything else, It's I just send to my guy. He edits everything, even my podcast. I do my podcast. I just upload it onto Google Drive, and then I send it to him, and then he does whatever he does with it. He uploads it. We do short clips and all that stuff. So really, it's less and less of me sitting down. Now, the other day I did, right? I sat down and I said, okay, what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about mindset. I want to talk about, whatever it is that I want to talk about. And, AI helps me with a lot of these different ideas as well, because I'll prompt it all, of who I am, and it knows a lot of who I am as well. And then I'll say, give me 10 great, talking points that I can talk about today. And then I'll take that and then I'll build from there.
Yeah. I also think that like a big part of it is not just what you say, but how you say it. And you must know this, but like I didn't know this when I was just running my agency. I guess a little bit, but when you talk in front of your team, I actually think those are like the best content because you're already saying what they need to hear. And I think when you're public speaking for that long, you kind of start to understand, okay, if I say it like this, people really react. But if I say it like this, not as much. You know what I mean? Like, so that's like another benefit of putting yourself out there is through that feedback, you learn how to speak better. You know how to say things in a way that people will react to it. You know what I mean?
It's just experience, man. People gotta get to the point where they're just unafraid. Like my son, he's made a couple of pieces of content, and he's starting to do the business with me now as well. And he's made a couple of really good videos. Actually, they were. Matter of fact, I'm going to send it to you because I think you'll like it because you appreciate this kind of stuff. But he's very witty. My son is very witty. He's more quiet, reserved than I am. So he's not me. Like he's not a duplicate of me at all. He's actually, and I've always told him, I think he's way more intelligent than me. Like I'm an action guy. I'll get shit done, but he's intelligent. Like you and him would have a beautiful conversation, right? Because he's more your personality, but he's just smart and he's witty. It's kind of cool because he's starting to make some content right now, and he's starting to get an understanding of the business and all that kind of stuff. And but I noticed that he does one video, and then he won't make another video for like 2 weeks, and then he's worried about everything's got to be perfect. Everything's got to be like, okay, it's got to be the funniest video. It can't go from really funny because the first one was really good. He was on the horse in the backyard and he did some kind of weird thing. It's like, I think he just feels like he's got to always up it. It's like it never. And what's crazy is that, even though I'm a motivational guy, and of course I always talk about winning and being a champion, all that kind of stuff. I was always told my kids, man, I love you guys no matter what, man. I'm never gonna, I never pushed them into doing the business or anything like that. I was always like, if you want to do it, if you're ready, you do it. This is something that we can do together. Yeah. But if you want to be a doctor, man, go be a doctor. You can do whatever you want to do. I'll support you at any level. But again, I think
there has to be some self-motivation first. Like if somebody, like if this is not their calling, this is not they want, obviously for you, this is your calling, right? So I think definitely like if somebody is not up to it, like I can't force them to do it, Of
course. But I do want people to recognize that perfectionism is a disease.
Yeah.
No matter what. And go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that no matter what field you go into, that's like they're still gonna bump into that. You don't have to make content, but even if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, or like you want to go into run your own agency, at some point you're gonna bump into that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, people are. They have a need to want to make sure everything's perfect. And I'm not saying that trying to do things excellent is a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's going to stunt some people's growth, and it's going to put you in a situation where it's going to take you so much longer trying to always be perfect. At some point you gotta press record, man. Start talking. Yeah. Press record, just do it. And shit happens, right? Things happen, things mess up. You're going to say the wrong thing. I've spoke for 28 years. I've been in front of audiences for 28 years, if you could imagine. And I've said wrong things. I've said stupid things. I've offended people. I've, everything that you could imagine happening. Microphones have broke. People couldn't hear me. It was too hot in the room because of the air conditioning. We've had leaks in the office and, you name it. But if I never would have just gotten started, it's kind of like Henry Ford in the beginning. They told him, they said, oh, that car thing will never work because you don't have gas stations around the country. They told the same thing to Elon Musk, that it'll never happen, man, because you don't have electric chargers. How are people going to go across the country? Nobody's going to ever buy an electric vehicle. All right, well, then we'll build the damn stations, So, you can't get started when everything is perfect. You just got to fucking do it and then figure it out. I call it shoot and then aim. Shoot it, shoot the gun. And then aim as the bullets flying down the dang thing. It might be fast, might screw up, might mess up, but just do it because you got nothing to lose and everything to gain from just beginning, from going for it. That's why I say do it now. That's why you hear me say that so often.
Yeah. I am that perfectionist. I am the one that hard for me to hit publish, but in the last 4 years of just making content has completely changed me. And I think it's become kind of for me, like you said, the content creation part had to get boring for me. And now it's gotten there. In the beginning, what happened was one of my carousels went viral. And from that point on, I froze. After I had that first success, I froze. I'm like, I need to replicate that, right? And it's the harder I tried, the more I couldn't do it. And now I feel like it's gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, this one bombed, and then one just went viral and got 4 million views. But I didn't. Okay, whatever. Whether it bombs or it goes viral, for me now it's just a process. I'm like, oh, it's just part of the process.
You know what's interesting when you think about that from a mathematical standpoint, right? Even though I've never gone viral, I've never had a video do 1 million. I've never really gone viral. I mean, I don't know, maybe 50,000 is the most or something like that. But I never really thought about it like that. I thought about it in terms of if I made videos every day, even though my little 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 views, right? Just little ones, right? Add those up comparative to the guy that did one video and it got 1 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I've done millions of views over the time that I've been doing social media, even though I never went viral. And by the way, I always kind of thought about it like this too. Think about it. A lot of people that do viral videos or are online or, influencers or all these people, they look like they're making a lot of money, man. They walk by this Ferrari and they're on this private jet and all this bullshit, man. It's come on, dude, you ain't got no money. You know what I mean? It's that's what I thought in my mind. So I never compared myself to anybody. I don't care what anybody else is doing. I'm just going to do the best that I can. And I'm talking to everybody right now. You got to know that whatever it is that you're doing, that you believe in, that you're passionate with, that you're doing something important for the world, man. So what does that mean? That means that you got to keep doing it. And you can't like I would tell my son right now, look, Max, you make some great videos. Maybe they're not all going to be great, but who gives a shit? You just want eyeballs, man. You want to be in front of as many people as possible. Why? Because somebody's going to see you and they're going to say, I like that guy. He seems like a really nice guy. He seems like a great guy. I want to do business with him. And they're going to call you up and they're going to go, hey, will you do business? So guess what? Who gives a shit about the likes? They don't pay me for likes. Yeah. They don't pay me for going viral. They pay me for getting business, from a client that might see me somewhere. Yeah. That's how we get paid. And so we got to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with the things that make us money and that help us grow and help us make an impact versus things that maybe don't impact us that much in the end. And by the way, I turned off a lot of my videos. I turned off the like button. So I don't
Oh,
even,
really?
yeah, I actually turn them off. I think the last couple of them, I don't know, I forgot to turn it off, but because unfortunately you got to turn it off every single time. But I actually went into my settings and I turned off all my likes. So like when I see a video from you, I don't even know how many likes you got. I have no idea. It doesn't, my Instagram doesn't
That's
show me how
actually
many likes
probably
anybody has.
that's actually probably good for people who are trying to get in the content game, and if you keep
Yeah.
comparing yourself to others or something like that.
Yeah, because it kind of slows you down. And then for me, I don't care anymore. I'm just doing it because I want to make content. I want to make a difference. And I know that these things can help my business continue to grow
Yeah.
for the long run. And if I believe that, then I'm going to do those things
Yeah.
continually.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, like the exposure is good, but that exposure alone doesn't make you money, right? Like you still need to be good at your job. You know, you still need to deliver, and all that's the real business, right? So I see so many people that are like in the influencer game who that's because right now the influencer game is kind of dying, where brands are not really paying anymore and things like that, and now they're like struggling. Whereas in people that actually built a business, you know, they're like for them it doesn't matter, right?
Well, that's I'm a perfect example of the motivational speaker that doesn't give a shit about selling books. I don't need to sell any books. I don't need to sell any courses. I don't need to sell, right? Because that's not how I make my bread and butter, right? I make my money by the fact that I built a financial services company with 1,500 licensed agents. Every time one of those people writes a sale, they get paid 90%. I get paid a little bit, right? That's all. And we just want to grow that and continue help other people create businesses like that. That's my whole mission, right? Is to open up. I have 56 offices right now. I want 156 offices, right? That's my vision. All that can happen. But the truth is, you're right, man. At the end of the day, it's the business that we built. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing my podcast for my business. I'm doing the coaching program for my business. Because by the way, I'm teaching a lot of my agents on that coaching program, by the way.
Oh,
so
okay.
a lot of my agents are on there connected, you know?
So you also do coaching for people outside of the insurance business, like just people?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have real estate agents. I have, car salespeople. I have, you name it. I mean, there's all kinds of people on there. So yeah, no, I mean, and again, some people are on different sides of the country. So some people watch or some people watch the video afterwards because we record everything. So just depends, some people get on live, some people don't. Just depends. But again, at the end of the day, that's not my bread and butter, man. Yeah. I legitimately want to help people change their life based on what I did. But, ultimately, if they want to do it in any field, that's okay too, man. I have all the love for everybody.
Yeah, I want to just, because for me, it's the same way. Like my agency is my bread and butter, right? Like this is like something that's kind of bonus. And I think that's kind of how everybody should think of it. You should build a bread and butter business where, like you have that income that's coming in that you don't have to worry about. And then, if you want to do this as a side hustle or something like that, do that. But it's too many people. I think is just depending on their side hustle to be their main bread and butter, which I don't think is smart.
I agree.
So kind of like on that, like, so if somebody wants to, I have one last question for you, but if somebody wants to get coaching from you, want to join your community, join Wealth on the Beach, like what's the best way to go about it? How do they find you?
Yeah, the best way is to get me on Instagram at Daniel Alonzo with a ZO at the end, and just send me a DM, man, and just have an open conversation. I check all my DMs on Instagram. Please don't DM me on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter because it takes me a while to get to those. But anyways, I mean, I do have the guy that posts everything. He does get me some of those messages, but the bottom line is connect with me on Instagram. I do have the alonzoacademy.com that you can send me a message through there. I also have wealthonthebeach.com. So you could actually sign up directly on wealthonthebeach.com to sign up for the coaching program if that's something that you want to do. And so those are the main things. I have
I'll put all the links.
My YouTube channel is doing pretty well. I think we just went over 14,000 subscribers. Nice. They're all organic subscribers, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah. No, YouTube I think is where it's at. Like I noticed that YouTube converts so much better than like any other social media. My last question is this. So from your own life, what do you think is like the biggest myth that you used to believe that turned out to be false about the world? And then when you look at your audience and the people you're coaching, what do you think is like the biggest myth that they believe in, which that you can kind of be like, you can show them the truth?
Well, I think for my own life, I think that I had this perception that rich people were bad, that being rich was bad. Having a lot of money was bad. And probably where I grew up, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I came from, some neighborhoods that were not so good neighborhoods. And so I think that was kind of a myth that was in my mind, and it really held me back. And it made me, maybe not, go after the things that I probably should have went after. I wish that I would have hung out with better people. I wish I would have hung out with people with money, because I learned a lot of things from people with money. I mean, the people with money changed my life. I tell people all the time, I mean, broke people are the ones stealing shit. Now, somebody might argue and they might go, well, rich people steal things too. They just steal it in a different way. That's true. Our government, there's some rich people in the government that they're a bunch of, terrible people, and their governments are corrupt and things like that. But I'm talking about that average guy that like he was kind of like, he scrapped his way up. He's an entrepreneur. He made a lot of money, became successful, and he became rich. Well, that guy, I mean, I just interviewed the executive producer for Sound of Freedom on my podcast. Really? And and this guy's like freaking, he's got a lot of money. I mean, he did really well. Sold a company like $20 million at 29 years old. Did very, very well.
They're doing another movie now, like Sound of Hope.
They're probably doing another movie. But this guy, he went on like 70 missions, man. I mean, he's got a heart of a champion. He's got a heart of gold. I mean, and he's like, his passion is to save kids, man. I mean, if you could imagine that, and like most people don't put themselves out there like that. And so again, this is a rich guy, because he's a good guy. He goes out there and he's trying to save the world, trying to save kids and people. And, so I think, that's one of the myths for me. Now, as far as a myth for agents,
let me just add one thing to that, because I wanted to say this because I had that same mindset, and actually it held me back so much, because it wasn't until years later I realized that I was using that as an excuse, like money is the root of all evil. Like I was using that as an excuse to not even try.
Right.
And now, like I wish I had done it like a lot earlier, because you're exactly right. Like I don't think money itself is evil. Like, you know how they say money doesn't change you, it exposes you. So like rich people that are evil, they're going to be evil when they're poor. And poor people that are, kind, they're going to be kind when they're rich. They're going to be even kinder when they're rich.
For sure. Yeah. Rich money just exposes you for who you are. That's it.
Agreed.
That's all it does. It just allows you to become who you really are. And so if you're a good person, you're going to continue to be a good person. If you're a bad person, so yeah, you're absolutely right. And then, the myth for my agents, I think the myth is that, we come in and, somebody like me, we come in and we sit in the room and I like got a little gold star on my chair, so this guy's going to make it, and it's such bullshit, because I've seen the most introverted, the most scared, the most, just like, you just never would have thought that person was making it. Matter of fact, I'll give you a perfect example. The company right now has a guy that's making like $6 million a year. I mean, he's the most successful guy in the company. Like that's a record and whatever, And he's one of the shyest, introverted, nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life. Like, I mean, nothing like me, right? You look at somebody like me and I'm loud and I talk and I'm passionate and all this kind of stuff. Well, guess what? Sometimes that could be a bad thing because I sound so passionate, so confident, so everything. Then guess what? People will doubt that sometimes, and they'll look at, they'll go, oh, what's his ulterior motive, or what's wrong with him, or what, it's like, but again, that's just my personality. God made me this way. It's my DNA. I'm trying to be authentic as fuck, of who I am. I mean, really, we all are who we are, right? But this other guy, it's like he's like him too. But people will look at him and they'll go, man, he's honest and he's low key and blah, blah, blah. So again, but then other people might say, well, I don't want to follow that guy because he's boring too, So again, there's always, but the myth is that you think that like somebody that's passionate and motivated is going to make it. Or that if you're not passionate and motivated, that you're not going to make it. And that's not true. I've seen out of the 150,000 licensed agents in the company, there's probably like, I don't know, 10,000 offices or something like that. So out of those VPs, well, there's a lot that are motivated like me, and there's a lot that are, passionate like somebody else. And that's okay. So don't, anything you do, by the way, whether it be marketing, because people will look at you and they'll go, well, I need to be just like Son to make it. Well, guess what? That's not true either. I just need to take the principles that Son's teaching, and I need to be authentic about who I am. And then, but I still need to take his teaching and do the shit he's telling me to do, because the things that you do teach, Son, are very, very valuable and very important, man. All the, that's not the way I thought about it. And all, little things that you do, like, it's powerful, man. So the people of your audience, they need to learn from you and follow the things that you're telling them to do, because you do know your shit. I mean, let's be honest, right? I mean, you do know your stuff really, really well.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like the authentic as, because this is an authentic as fuck podcast. It's, I bet you if that guy tried to do it your way, he would not be successful. And if you try to do it his way, you would not be successful. We really need to we have to stick to our personality, how we really are. And that's kind of what I actually see a lot of people struggling. I see a lot of introverts trying to be the like rah guy. And I see, a lot of like this person who already has that personality, but trying to be like, like kind of like, I guess, a different style. And that's why I don't know if you heard of Lex Friedman podcast. Yeah. He's like a perfect example of that, right? Because the way he talks is so slow, so boring, but the guy's killing it, right? Because he's just being himself and he's doing it his way. And I wish everybody would just double down on themselves,
For sure. Well said.
Thank you for that. All right, with that, yeah, authentic as fuck, I think, is the theme of this episode. I'm gonna put all your links in the bottom, so that everyone definitely go check it out. Follow him on Instagram, join his Wealth on the Beach community, and I will see you all next week. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Appreciate
Cheers.
you.